If you could choose any time in history to live, you would probably skip 1918, the year of the Spanish flu. You would definitely skip 1347, the year the Black Death arrived in Europe. And you certainly wouldn't pick 2020. But ask a historian or a scientist what the absolute worst year in human history was, and they won't give you any of those dates. They will tell you, without hesitation, that the worst time to be alive was the year 536 AD. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, expecting the sunrise. But instead of a bright, warm sun, you see a pale, bluish phantom hanging in the sky. It gives off no heat. It casts no shadow. And then, the next day, it happens again. And the next. For 18 months, a mysterious dry fog rolled across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. It blocked out the sun day and night. It plunged the world into a literal dark age. But the darkness was just the beginning, because when the sun goes away, everything else starts to die. It started in the spring of 536. At the time, the Roman Empire was still holding on in the east, ruled by Emperor Justinian. It was a time of relative peace. Then, the weather broke. A Byzantine historian named Procopius, who was living in Constantinople, wrote down exactly what he saw. He wrote, "For the sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon, during the whole year." Another writer, a Roman senator named Cassiodorus, described a winter without storms, a spring without mildness, and a summer without heat. He noted that at noon, people couldn't see their own shadows on the ground. The sun was feeble. The moon was empty of splendor. This wasn't just a cloudy week. It was a global atmospheric collapse. Temperatures plummeted. In the middle of summer, snow began to fall in China. In Mesopotamia, the dense, dry fog was so thick that it suffocated the crops. The immediate result was exactly what you would expect. Without sunlight, the grain died in the fields. Without grain, the livestock died. And without livestock, the people began to starve. This wasn't just a European problem. This was a worldwide extinction event. In Ireland, the monks recorded a simple, chilling entry, a failure of bread. It was a famine that lasted for years. In China, historical chronicles describe a yellow dust raining down from the sky like snow. In the northern provinces, the famine was so severe that 70 to 80% of the population died. The chronicles even mention the darkest desperation of all, people resorting to cannibalism just to survive the freezing summer. Across the ocean, in Peru, the mighty Moche civilization was hit by a drought that lasted for decades. The stress was so high that archaeologists believe it tore their society apart, leading to civil war and total collapse. But perhaps the most haunting story comes from Scandinavia. Archaeologists have found huge hoards of gold buried in the ground from exactly this time period. They believe the Nordic people were sacrificing their wealth to the gods, desperate to bring the sun back. This event was so traumatic that it likely inspired the Norse legend of Fimbulwinter, the great winter that comes before the end of the world. If the story ended there, 536 would already be the worst year in history. But nature wasn't done yet. Humanity was now freezing, starving, and huddled together in dirty cities for warmth. They were the perfect dry tinder for a fire. And in 541 AD, the final blow arrived. It came on grain ships from Egypt, docking in the port of Pelusium. But the ships weren't just carrying food. They were carrying rats. This was the plague of Justinian. It was the first recorded outbreak of the bubonic plague in history. The symptoms were the stuff of nightmares. Victims developed massive black swellings in their groins and armpits. Some fell into comas. Others went into delirious frenzies, screaming that they were being attacked by demons. Once the symptoms started, you usually had less than 2 days to live. In Constantinople, the bodies piled up so fast they couldn't be buried. They were stacked inside guard towers, pressed down like garbage. At its peak, the plague was killing 10,000 people every single day in one city alone. By the time it ended, nearly 50 million people were dead. That was half of the entire world's population. For centuries, historians thought these stories were exaggerations. But in 2018, modern science finally found the smoking gun. Researchers analyzed ice cores from glacier in Switzerland. Think of these as a frozen time capsule. When they looked at the layer dated to 536, they found microscopic shards of volcanic glass. This proved that a cataclysmic volcanic eruption had occurred, likely in Iceland. This eruption threw millions of tons of ash into the atmosphere, acting like a mirror that reflected the sun's heat back into space. But it wasn't just one volcano. The ice revealed a triple event. a massive eruption in 536, a second in 540, and a third in 547. It was a 1-2-3 punch that knocked the climate off balance for over 100 years. The planet didn't fully recover until almost the year 660. The consequences changed the world forever. Before 536, the Eastern Roman Empire was on the verge of restoring its glory. But the plague and famine stopped the Roman army in its tracks. They ran out of soldiers and tax money. The empire collapsed, never to return to its former height. In the chaos, new powers emerged. The collapse of old economies allowed tribes like the Anglo-Saxons to expand into Britain. In the Middle East, the power vacuum allowed for the rapid rise of the Islamic caliphates just a century later. The world of antiquity died in the fog of 536, and the Middle Ages were born in the darkness. We like to think that we are the masters of our planet, but the story of 536 AD is a humble reminder of how fragile we actually are. It didn't take an alien invasion or a nuclear war to bring civilization to its knees. It just took one volcano. One mountain, waking up on a bad Tuesday, was enough to turn the sun into a ghost and wipe out half of humanity. So, the next time you have a bad day, or the news is stressing you out, take a second to look out the window. Is the sun shining? Can you feel the heat on your face? If the answer is yes, then believe me, you are having a much better year than the people of 536. The darkness of 536 didn't just kill people, it killed the dream of Rome. Thanks for watching, please subscribe.